When I said with a heart full of joy, "Daughter, I am so happy about your wedding tomorrow," my daughter fell silent, and my son-in-law laughed. The wedding took place a week ago. The money I had given for the celebration of their dreams disappeared into their pockets. A week later, they returned, begging for forgiveness, and I coldly said, "Get out of here." They were devastated. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The roast had another 10 minutes. I checked it through the oven window, watched the juices pooling around the carrots and potatoes, then glanced at my watch again. 7:15. Alma said they'd be here by 7. I adjusted the wine glasses on the table one more time, making sure everything sat just right. 3 place settings. White napkins I'd ironed myself that afternoon. The good plates, the ones Maria and I got for our 20th anniversary. Strange how they only came out for special occasions now, and this was about as special as it got. Tomorrow my daughter would marry Theodore Caldwell, and I'd walk her down the aisle at the Desert Botanical Garden. $45,000 for that wedding, worth every penny to see her happy. Headlights swept across the front window. Finally. I was already at the door when they came up the walk. Alma looked beautiful in a cream-colored dress, her dark hair pulled back, but something in her posture felt wrong. She wouldn't look at me straight on, kept her eyes fixed somewhere around my left shoulder. "Come in, come in!" I held the door wide, reaching to embrace her. She let me, but her body stayed rigid. "Traffic bad on the 101? "Not too terrible." Theodore's voice came from behind her. He strode past both of us into my living room like he owned the place, hands in his pockets, silk shirt catching the light. Never liked how he carried himself. Too smooth, too confident in a way that had nothing backing it up. "Dinner's almost ready," I said, closing the door. "I wanted us to have this time together before tomorrow gets crazy. You know how weddings are. Once it starts, you barely get a moment to breathe." Alma finally met my eyes. Just for a second, what I saw there made my stomach drop. "Dad, the wedding was a week ago, Sylvester." Theodore examined his fingernails, casual as discussing the weather. "Small private ceremony in Sedona. We decided to keep it intimate. Just the two of us and an officiant." The words hit me like I'd grabbed a live wire. My hand was still on the doorknob. I couldn't seem to let go. "What did you say?" "Last Tuesday." He checked his phone screen, scrolled through something. "Beautiful sunset ceremony at Cathedral Rock. Very spiritual. Much better than some crowded event with 100 people we barely know." "But my voice sounded far away, like someone else was using it. "I gave you $45,000. For the wedding. For tomorrow." Alma twisted the ring on her left hand. New ring. Gold band with small diamonds. "When did she get that? How did I miss it?" "We made different choices with the funds." Theodore finally looked at me, and his eyes held nothing. No warmth, no apology, not even the decency of discomfort. "Use the money for our honeymoon in Maui instead. 3 weeks at the Grand Wailea. Better investment in our future together, if you think about it. We're building our own life now. Time to be independent." Independent. The word tasted bitter. My hands found the back of the nearest dining chair, gripped hard enough that my knuckles went white. 63 years old, and I'd learned to control my temper working on cars. When an engine fights you, getting angry accomplishes nothing. Steady hands, clear head. But my mechanic's composure was fracturing. "You spent my money. Money I gave you for a wedding I was supposed to attend? On a vacation?" "Dad, we just wanted something small." Alma's voice came out thin, uncertain. She still wouldn't hold my gaze. "Just us. Something simple and meaningful. You understand, right? We didn't want all the pressure and expectations." "Pressure?" I heard my voice drop, get quieter, colder. "I've been calling you every week about final arrangements. You let me believe. You both let me believe. We planned to tell you tonight." Theodore shrugged, actually shrugged, like he'd forgotten to pick up milk at the store. "Thought we'd have dinner? Explain the situation. You're overreacting." The oven timer started beeping in the kitchen. None of us moved. "Get out." Alma blinked. "Dad, get out of my house." I released the chair and stood straight, looked directly at Theodore. His smirk faltered for just a moment. "Good. Both of you. Now. You're being unreasonable." Theodore's voice took on a patronizing edge. We'll come back when you've calmed down, old man. Give you time to process. I'm processed. I walked past them and opened the front door. The July evening heat rushed in, thick and suffocating. Leave. Alma moved first, hurrying toward the door with her head down. She paused at the threshold, opened her mouth like she wanted to say something. I waited. She closed her mouth and walked out. Theodore took his time, checking his phone again as he strolled toward me. This is childish, Sylvester. We're family now. You'll get over it. I said nothing, just stood there holding the door until he finally walked through it. I watched them get into Theodore's Tesla, watched the headlights snap on, watched them back out of my driveway and disappear down the street. Then I closed the door, locked it. The deadbolt sliding into place sounded very loud in the sudden silence. The dining room table still held 3 place settings. The wine I'd opened to breathe sat untouched. In the kitchen, the oven timer continued its insistent beeping. I walked past it all toward my home office at the back of the house, leaving the roast to burn. The filing cabinet's bottom drawer stuck like it always did. I gave it the practiced jerk that popped it loose, pulled out the accordion folder marked Alma Financial. My desk lamp made a small circle of light in the dark office. I hadn't bothered turning on the overhead fixture. Didn't need it. The folder held everything. Every bank statement, every canceled check, every wire transfer confirmation from the past 15 years. I spread them across my desk in rough chronological order, then turned on my computer. The screen's glow hurt my eyes for a moment before they adjusted. College tuition first. Arizona State, 4 years. I pulled out the bursar's office statements, the semester payment confirmations, $28,000 for in-state tuition, room and board, books and supplies, study abroad program to Spain her junior year. That was $12,000 by itself. Total, $120,000 give or take. I opened a new spreadsheet, started entering numbers. After graduation came the startup dream. Alma wanted to launch a marketing consulting firm. She'd been so excited on the phone, talking fast about social media strategies and brand positioning. I'd driven to her apartment in Tempe, sat at her tiny kitchen table while she showed me the business plan on her laptop. Professional-looking document, charts and projections. She needed $80,000 for operating costs while she built her client base. The business lasted 14 months. I found the wire transfer receipt, dated March 2019. $80,000 straight from my business account to hers. Found the apologetic text message from October 2020. Dad, I'm closing the company. Market's too competitive. Love you. Thank you for believing in me. I entered it in the spreadsheet. Column for date, column for amount, column for purpose. Next came the Audi. She'd called me on a Saturday morning 2 years ago. Her old Honda had died. Transmission gone, not worth fixing. Could I help with a down payment? Just enough to get her into something reliable. I'd driven to the dealership with her, watched her fall in love with the silver A4, signed as co-buyer when her credit couldn't handle it alone. $35,000 financed through Chase. I'd made every payment since. The numbers kept adding up. Rent assistance, $2,200 a month for 3 years. She'd moved to a nicer place in Scottsdale after Theodore entered the picture. Said it was important for her professional image. I'd quietly paid her landlord directly, automatic transfer on the 1st of every month. 120 plus 80 plus 35, I muttered, reaching for my calculator. My coffee had gone cold in its mug, but I took a sip anyway. Tasted like rust. That's $235,000 plus rent, $79,000. $314. Then the wedding fund, $45,000. Wired to Alma's account 6 weeks ago. Money that bought first-class tickets to Hawaii and 3 weeks at a resort I couldn't pronounce. I logged into my online banking, pulled up the joint account, the one I'd set up last year after Alma mentioned she worried about emergencies. What if something happens and I need money fast, Dad? Could we have a shared account just for security? Made sense at the time. My daughter needed safety. What father wouldn't provide that? Current balance, $67,412. I clicked on transaction history. Started scrolling. May 15th. Withdrawal, $5,000. Notation. Business TC. May 22nd. Withdrawal, $8,000. Notation. Business TC. June 3rd. Withdrawal, $6,500. Notation. Business TC. TC. Theodore Caldwell. My hand stopped moving the mouse. I just stared at the screen, watching the blue light reflect off my reading glasses. Every withdrawal since April carried those initials. Some smaller, 1,500 here, 2,000 there. Others larger. The biggest, 12,000 on June 28th. I clicked back through 3 months of history, started adding up Theodore's extractions from the account my daughter had access to, the account I'd funded for her security. $43,000. Gone. Funneled through Alma into Theodore's pockets. Dad, Theodore has an amazing real estate investment opportunity. Her voice played in my memory, bright and hopeful. That phone call in April. Could you transfer some funds to the account, just until his commission check clears? 2 weeks, tops. 2 weeks had turned into 4 months of systematic drainage. I pulled more files. Every document told the same story. Every email I'd saved. Dad, you always said you'd support my dreams. Dad, I promise this time will be different. Dad, I'll pay you back when things stabilize. My legal pad sat blank beside the keyboard. I picked up a pen, started writing. Not emotions, not anger, just facts, categories, and totals. Education, $120,000 business. Investment, $80,000 vehicle. $35,000. Housing, $79,200. Wedding fund, $45,000 joint account, withdrawn by TC. $43,000 miscellaneous, medical, travel, gifts, $9,800 grand. Total, $412,000 or $412,000. I sat back in my chair, removed my glasses, rubbed my eyes with the heels of my hands. Just once I let myself feel the full weight of it. The betrayal, the calculated manipulation. My daughter, my only child, the little girl I'd raised alone after Maria died, had hollowed me out like rust eating through a car frame. Then I put my glasses back on, picked up the pen again. The mechanic in me understood. When something's broken beyond repair, you don't keep pouring money into it. You cut your losses. You salvage what's salvageable and let the rest go. New page on the legal pad. Header. Action items. Close joint account. Monday morning. Remove Alma from Wells Fargo Access. Monday morning. Cancel automatic rent payment. Monday. Revise will schedule with attorney this week. Remove Alma as beneficiary. Life insurance. Retirement accounts. Business succession. Call Martin Ashford. Rancy Estate Planning. I opened a new browser tab. Typed Estate Attorneys, Phoenix, Arizona. The search results filled my screen. I started clicking through, reading reviews, checking credentials. Opened another tab for trust lawyers. Another for asset protection specialists. My browsing history grew. How to legally disinherit adult child, Arizona. Revocable trust requirements. Protecting business assets from family claims. The clock in the corner of my screen read 3:47 a.m. I wasn't tired. My mind was working with a clarity I hadn't felt in years, each thought clicking into place like a perfectly calibrated torque wrench. Another page in the legal pad. I started listing names from the search results. Firms that specialized in family law, estate planning, asset protection. Next to each name, I wrote the earliest appointment time their websites listed. My phone sat dark on the desk. No calls from Alma. No apologetic texts. No, Dad, can we talk? She'd made her choice. Chosen Theodore. Chosen the money. Chosen to let her father believe in a wedding that never happened, while she drained his accounts behind his back. I pulled up my email, started composing drafts. Subject lines only, to be finished in the morning when business hours started. Joint account closure request. Beneficiary change forms. Urgent estate planning consultation. Through the window behind my computer, the sky had started shifting from black to deep purple. Dawn coming. Phoenix waking up. The bank on Camelback Road opened at 8. I had 4 hours to shower, dress, organize my documents. I looked at the legal pad, at the action items, at the browser tabs still glowing with attorney websites, at the spreadsheet showing $412,000 in a single, damning column. You want independence? I said it quietly to the empty office, to the darkness, to the daughter who wasn't there to hear it. You'll have it. I saved the spreadsheet as evidence.xlsx and started creating a new folder on my desktop. Time to treat this like any other business problem. Methodical, strategic. No emotion, just execution. The untouched dinner still sat on my dining room table. I could smell it from here, the roast now cold and congealed. I'd deal with it later. Right now, I had work to do. The shower water ran hot enough to sting. I stood under it until steam filled the bathroom, until the tension in my shoulders started to ease. Through the frosted window, dawn light was breaking over the desert. Sunday morning. Most people would sleep in. I had business to conduct. I toweled off, dressed in the clothes I'd laid out the night before. Pressed gray slacks, white button-down shirt, the leather belt Maria bought me 15 years ago. When you're about to dismantle someone's life, you dress for it. The dining room table still held last night's disaster. Congealed roast, cold potatoes, the wine I'd never opened. I scraped everything into the trash bag, listening to the solid thunk of wasted food hitting the bottom. Ran the dishes under water, loaded the dishwasher. Each movement felt like erasing evidence of a crime I hadn't committed. My watch showed 7:42. The Wells Fargo on Camelback Road opened at 8. I poured coffee into my travel mug, grabbed my wallet and keys. The folder of bank documents sat waiting by the door where I'd placed it at 4 a.m. Everything organized, account numbers, statements, the list of automatic payments I needed to cancel. Traffic was light heading north on Central Avenue. I didn't turn on the radio. My mind was already running through the conversation I'd have with the banking specialist. Clear requests, no emotional explanations. Just business. The bank's parking lot was empty except for employee vehicles. I pulled in at 7:58, watched through the windshield, as a woman in a blue blazer unlocked the front doors. By the time I walked across the lot, she'd flipped the sign to open. "Good morning." Her name tag read Jennifer, mid-30s, professional smile. "How can I help you today?" "I need to close a joint account. Transfer everything to a new account under my name only. Remove all secondary holders." Her fingers moved across her keyboard. "Of course. Let me pull up your accounts, Mr. Perez? Sylvester Perez?" She studied her screen, clicked through several pages. "I see you have a joint savings account here with Alma Perez Caldwell. That's the account you'd like to close?" "That's correct." "And you want to transfer the full balance to a new individual account? Current balance is $67,412. "Yes, today." Something flickered in her expression. Recognition, maybe, that this wasn't routine account maintenance. But her voice stayed neutral. "I'll need to verify your identity and get some signatures. This will take about 20 minutes. Can I get you coffee while we work through the paperwork?" "I'm fine." She printed forms, slid them across the desk one by one. Joint account closure authorization. New account application. Transfer request. I signed each without hesitation, my handwriting steady. "Mr. Perez, I also see several automatic payments linked to your accounts. Would you like me to transfer those to the new account, or cancel them? All of them." Her fingers paused over the keyboard. "All automatic payments? Let me pull up the complete list." She tilted the screen so I could see. "There's a monthly rent transfer for $2,200, an auto insurance payment for $340, and a credit card auto pay for $500. You want me to cancel these as well?" "Every single one, effective immediately." "Understood." More typing. "These cancellations will process by end of business today. The account closure will be complete within 24 hours, but the funds will be available in your new account this afternoon." "That works." She printed a final confirmation page, circled the new account number with her pen. "You're all set, Mr. Perez. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "That's everything. Thank you." Outside, the Phoenix heat was already building. I sat in my truck for a moment, the folder of bank documents on the passenger seat now stamped with processing dates and confirmation numbers. First move complete. Martin Ashford's law office was 15 minutes away in a converted Victorian on 3rd Street. I'd used him for business contracts and lease agreements for the past decade. Solid attorney, discreet. I parked under a jacaranda tree and walked up the front steps. The receptionist recognized me immediately. "Mr. Perez, do you have an appointment this morning?" "No, but I need to see Martin. It's urgent." She glanced at her computer screen, picked up the phone, murmured something I couldn't hear. "He's just finishing with another client. He can see you in about 10 minutes if you'd like to wait." "I'll wait." I sat in one of the leather chairs, looked at the framed diplomas on the wall. University of Arizona Law School. Arizona Bar Association. 23 years of practice. The kind of experience I needed. Martin emerged from his office with another client, shook the man's hand, then turned to me. Sylvester, come on in. Everything okay with the shops? The shops are fine. This is personal. His office had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with legal volumes. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, settled into his own. What's going on? I need to create an irrevocable trust. Everything I own goes to charity when I die. My daughter receives nothing. The words landed like stones in still water. Martin leaned back, studied my face. Sylvester, that's quite a significant decision. Are you certain? These trusts can't be undone once executed. Perhaps a revocable trust would give you more flexibility if circumstances change. Irrevocable. I want it locked down. No way to change it. No way for anyone to contest it. Can you do that? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, can you tell me what happened? I gave him the essentials. The wedding that wasn't. The $45,000 spent on a honeymoon. The joint account systematically drained by Theodore. The decades of support, with nothing to show but empty accounts and emptier promises. Martin made notes on his legal pad, his expression shifting from surprise to understanding. In Arizona, you have complete freedom to dispose of your estate as you choose. No forced heirship laws. But Sylvester, family members can sometimes challenge on grounds of undue influence or diminished capacity. Then make it challenge-proof. That's why I'm hiring you. I can do that. He pulled out a fresh intake form. Let's start with your assets. You mentioned 3 auto shops. Perez Auto Care, 3 locations in Phoenix. Total value approximately $2.1 million. Then there's my house, worth about $580,000. His pen scratched across paper. Retirement accounts, life insurance. 401k worth $400,000. Life insurance policy $250,000. All currently list Alma as beneficiary. I need that changed. We'll handle that separately from the trust. Beneficiary designation changes are straightforward. He looked up. Have you thought about which charity you want as the trust beneficiary? Something related to mechanic vocational education, kids who want to learn a trade but can't afford school. I'll leave the specifics to you. I know several established foundations in that area. I'll draft the trust with a charitable purpose clause. He made more notes. This will take time to do properly. Asset appraisals, foundation selection, document preparation. I'm looking at 2 to 3 weeks minimum. Whatever it takes. Get started today. I will. Martin set down his pen, met my eyes. Sylvester, I have to ask. Is there any chance of reconciliation? Sometimes family rifts? No chance. He nodded slowly. Then I'll make this ironclad. Give me 3 weeks. Back in my truck, I sat with the engine running and the AC blasting. The folder from Martin sat on top of the bank folder. My phone sat silent in the cup holder. No calls from Alma yet. The account changes wouldn't hit her radar until she tried to access the money. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed toward my flagship shop on Indian School Road. Sunday was usually quiet, but Marcus would be there handling the emergency calls. Life continued. Work continued. Everything had changed, but nothing about my daily routine needed to shift. Not yet, anyway. The transmission on the F-150 had been grinding since Tuesday. I'd promised the owner I'd have it diagnosed by Monday morning. Now it was Monday morning, and I was elbow-deep in the bell housing, transmission fluid staining my hands black. This was the work that made sense. Input, shaft worn, replace it. Output bearing shot, swap it out. Every problem had a solution you could see, touch, fix. Not like families. Not like daughters who cut you out of their lives while draining your wallet. My phone buzzed in my shirt pocket. I ignored it. Adjusted the transmission jack. Checked the alignment one more time. The phone buzzed again, then again. I wiped my hands on a red shop rag. Pulled out the phone. Alma's name filled the screen. 7 missed calls. I stared at it. Felt my jaw tighten. Let it ring one more time. 2. Then I answered. Dad, what's going on? Her voice came through sharp, irritated. Not apologetic. Not remorseful. Annoyed. I tried to use the card and it says the account is closed. Is there some kind of mistake? Can you call the bank? There's no mistake, Alma. Silence on her end. Then, what do you mean there's no mistake? Dad, I need that account. I tried 3 different ATMs. I closed the account. You. What? When? Why would you do that without telling me? I set down the wrench I'd been holding, looked at the transmission suspended on the jack, waiting for me to finish the job. You're an adult now, 34 years old, married, time to be independent. What are you talking about? You can't just... Dad, rent is due today. We don't have enough in our account to cover everything this month. You always helped with... We had an arrangement. We had a lot of arrangements. You arranged to get married without me. I'm arranging my finances without you. Seems fair. Dad, please don't do this. I know you're upset about the wedding, but this is... Her voice cracked. Now the tears started. Right on schedule. This is too much. You're punishing me for... Give me that phone. Theodore's voice, distant, then suddenly close. Listen, old man, you can't cut off your daughter like this. We'll sue you for financial elder abuse in reverse. We had a reasonable expectation of continued support. My attorney says we have grounds. You had reasonable expectation of attending your own wedding. Life is full of disappointments. I ended the call, set the phone face down on my workbench, picked up my wrench and returned to the transmission. It buzzed 3 more times in the next hour. I didn't look at it. By noon, my phone showed 14 missed calls, voicemails piling up, text messages appearing one after another. I finished with the F-150, moved to a Honda with a timing belt issue, let Marcus handle the customer calls, focused on the work. Around 6, I finally listened to the voicemails. Alma's voice progressing from angry to desperate. Dad, please, just call me back. We can work this out. I'm sorry, okay? Just please pick up. Theodore's voice, trying to sound legally authoritative. Sylvester, this is harassment. Cutting off your daughter financially without warning. My attorney says we have grounds to pursue this in court. Call me back so we can resolve this reasonably. Neither of them had attorneys. I'd run a business long enough to know what real legal threats sounded like. This was posturing. I drove home as the sun set orange and purple over the desert, made myself a sandwich, ate it standing at the kitchen counter, opened my laptop at the dining table, and pulled up the documents Martin had emailed that afternoon. Trust framework, asset evaluation forms, foundation options for the charitable beneficiary. My phone lit up again, text from Alma. Dad, I'm coming over. We need to talk face to face. I didn't respond. Closed the laptop, carried it to my office. Settled in at my desk with Martin's paperwork spread out in front of me. Started reading through the trust language, making notes in the margins. The knock came just after 7:30. Loud, insistent. Dad, Dad, I know you're home. Alma's voice carried through the front door. Your truck is in the driveway. Please, just open up. I stayed in my office chair, didn't move toward the door. Through the window, I could see their shapes on my front porch. Alma and Theodore, backlit by the porch light I'd forgotten to turn off. This is ridiculous. Theodore's voice, louder than Alma's. You think ignoring us solves anything? You think you can just... More knocking. The doorbell rang, shrill and persistent. Rang again. Alma's voice rose higher. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. 5 minutes to talk, please. I marked a clause in the trust document that needed clarification, made a note to ask Martin about the Foundation's oversight requirements. The knocking continued. Theodore's voice grew angrier, but I couldn't make out the specific words anymore. Just noise, just static. They stayed for an hour, maybe longer. I reviewed the entire trust draft, started compiling questions for Martin. Through the window, I watched Theodore pace on my porch, phone pressed to his ear. Alma sat on my front steps, head in her hands. Finally, their voices faded. Car doors slammed. Engines started. I waited until I heard them pull away before I stood and walked to my front door. A crumpled piece of paper was jammed under the doormat. I pulled it out, smoothed it flat under the porch light. Theodore's handwriting sharp and angry. You're making a mistake. We'll pursue legal action for financial elder abuse and intentional infliction of emotional distress. You've left us no choice. Below it, in Alma's rounder script, Dad, please, I love you. I'm sorry about the wedding, but you're scaring me. This isn't like you. Can we please just talk? Please? I folded the note once, twice, walked it to the recycling bin in my garage, dropped it in. My phone rang as I walked back inside. Alma again. I silenced it without looking at the screen. Locked the front door, checked the back door, made sure every window was secured. In my office, the trust documents waited. I sat back down, picked up my pen, continued reading where I'd left off. The house was quiet now, just me and the paperwork and the sound of the AC cycling on and off. Outside, Phoenix settled into its summer night, dry and hot and utterly indifferent to the small human dramas playing out in its scattered homes. I worked until midnight, making notes, asking questions, building the legal fortress that would stand long after I was gone. When I finally went to bed, my phone showed 29 missed calls. I plugged it in to charge, set it face down on the nightstand, and closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd go back to the shop, fix more transmissions, diagnose more electrical problems, keep my business running the way I'd run it for 3 decades. Alma and Theodore could pound on doors and leave notes and call attorneys who didn't exist. I had work to do. Martin's office looked different on Saturday morning, quieter. No receptionist at the desk, just the attorney and me reviewing trust documents spread across his conference table. Sylvester, to protect the trust from any challenge, we should document your prior financial support, especially that business investment. Martin tapped his pen against the legal pad. Do you have records? Every bank statement, every wire transfer, $80,000 into her startup. Good. I'd recommend hiring a forensic accountant to analyze where that money actually went. Creates an unimpeachable paper trail if anyone questions your motivations. I leaned back in my chair. You think they'll challenge? Theodore strikes me as the type who'll try everything. Better to have answers before questions get asked. By Monday afternoon, I was sitting across from David Chen in a coffee shop on Central Avenue. Mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of careful attention to detail I recognized from good mechanics. We both knew how to trace problems to their source. Mr. Perez, I'll need all documentation related to the business. Incorporation papers, account statements, expense reports. He pulled out a tablet, stylus ready. I'll trace every dollar and categorize expenditures as legitimate business costs versus other uses. How long? 3 to 4 days for a comprehensive report. I'll be thorough. I slid a folder across the table. Business plan Alma had shown me 2 years ago, bank statements from the startup account I'd funded, incorporation documents from the Arizona Corporation Commission, every piece of paper that proved I'd believed in her dream. David opened the folder, scanned the first few pages. I'll have results by Wednesday. The next 3 days felt stretched thin. I worked the shops, replaced a serpentine belt on a Camry, diagnosed a misfiring cylinder on a Jeep Cherokee, supervised Marcus while he tackled a transmission rebuild. Normal work. But my mind kept drifting to David's investigation and to something else, the subtle shifts in how people treated me. Tuesday morning, Frank from Desert Parts Supply made an odd comment while I was ordering brake pads. Everything okay with you, Sil? Heard you're going through some family troubles. I kept my voice level. Nothing I can't handle. Sure, just checking in. But his tone carried something new. Curiosity, judgment, hard to say. Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang while I was finishing paperwork in my shop office. David's name on the screen. Mr. Perez, I've completed the analysis. The findings are significant. He paused, choosing words carefully. Of the $80,000 you invested, I can account for less than $8,000 in legitimate business expenses. The remainder appears to have funded personal lifestyle expenditures. My grip tightened on the phone. Give me specifics. Luxury hotels, high-end dining, designer retail purchases. I've categorized everything in the report. There's also a pattern of charges in Theodore Caldwell's name, despite him not being listed as a business partner or employee. Send me everything. The email arrived 10 minutes later. I opened the PDF on my computer, started reading. Website design, $200. Business cards, $180. WeWork membership, 1 quarter, $2,400. Subtotal of legitimate business expenses, $790. Then the rest. Line after line of personal spending dressed up with vague business justifications. $4,200. Nyman Marcus, professional attire. $2,800. Montage Laguna Beach, client meeting. $650. Dominic's Steakhouse, business dinner. The business dinner was for 2 people on a Wednesday night in July. Alma's startup had no clients at that point. I knew because she'd told me she was still building her portfolio. Theodore's name appeared on dozens of transactions. Hotel charges in Las Vegas and San Diego. Premium gym memberships at Lifetime Fitness. A $13,100 charge at a luxury watch retailer with the notation Professional Accessories. $72,000. Gone. Not to build a business, but to fund a lifestyle. I printed the report, put it in a folder, set it on my desk next to the trust documents. Evidence. Facts. Numbers that couldn't be argued with. That evening I attended the Phoenix Metro Auto Repair Association meeting at a hotel conference room near Sky Harbor. 20 years I'd been part of this group, monthly meetings to discuss industry challenges, regulatory changes, best practices. I knew everyone, but tonight felt different. I walked in and conversation near the door paused, resumed a beat too late. Jerry Patterson gave me a nod but didn't come over like he usually did. Linda Chen, no relation to David, was talking to a group by the coffee station and glanced my way, then quickly back to her conversation. Robert Mendoza finally approached me during the break. We'd opened our first shops the same year, helped each other through the learning curve, shared supplier contacts and business advice for 2 decades. Sil, we've known each other a long time. I need to ask you straight. He kept his voice low. What's happening with Alma? I'm hearing stories that don't sound like you, but what are you hearing? He looked uncomfortable. Theodore's been at a couple networking events. Says you cut Alma off completely. No warning, no conversation. Says she's struggling to pay rent, and you won't even take her calls. He's worried about her well-being. The words landed like body blows. Not because they hurt, but because I could see the calculation behind them. Theodore working the circuit, building sympathy, controlling the narrative before I'd even realized we were in a public relations battle. There's always more to a story than one person's version. I kept my tone neutral. I'm handling a family matter with appropriate boundaries. Robert nodded slowly. I figured. Just wanted to hear it from you. Some folks who don't know you as well, he trailed off. Some folks believe what they hear first. Yeah. I stayed for the rest of the meeting, but didn't contribute much to the discussion. Drove home through warm August darkness, my mind working through the problem. Theodore wasn't just fighting for money anymore. He was fighting for reputation, social standing, the leverage that comes from being seen as the victim. Back in my home office, I opened my laptop and created a new folder. Record, Alma Financial Support. Started building a timeline. Every tuition payment, every rent check, every business investment, every promise to pay me back that evaporated into nothing. David's audit report went into the folder. Bank statements showing the joint account drains, email exchanges where Alma asked for money with increasingly elaborate justifications. My phone lit up with a notification. Missed call from an unknown number, no voicemail. I stared at it for a moment, then went back to my documentation. If Theodore wanted to control the narrative, he was about to learn that stories without facts are just noise, and I had all the facts. I worked until past midnight, organizing, cross-referencing, building the unassailable record of what had actually happened. Not the emotional version Theodore was selling, not the victim story Alma would tell, just numbers, dates, and documents that couldn't be disputed. When I finally closed my laptop, the folder held everything. A complete financial history of my relationship with my daughter, reduced to spreadsheets and bank statements and audit reports. Tomorrow I'd call Martin. We needed to talk about what came next. Thursday morning started with my hands inside a Honda Civic's engine bay, checking spark plugs. The 3rd cylinder wasn't firing right. Probably a bad coil. My phone rang from the workbench. Martin's voice came through tight. Sylvester, we have a situation. Alma and Theodore have retained an attorney. Whitmore and Associates, mid-tier firm. They've sent a demand letter. I straightened up, wiped my hands on a rag. Demanding what? Restoration of financial support and a guarantee of inheritance rights. Claims you made oral promises that created a binding expectation. Through my shop's front window, I saw the mail carrier approaching. Hold on! The certified mail envelope had my name in bold letters. I signed for it, tore it open while walking back to my office. Official letterhead, 3 pages of legal language. I scanned the key phrases: established pattern of financial support, reasonable reliance, verbal assurances regarding estate planning, immediate restoration of monthly payments required. Martin, I'm reading it now. Don't let it rattle you. Can you come by this afternoon? Say 3 o'clock? I'll be there. I photographed each page, sent them to Martin with a 2-word message. See you soon. The rest of the morning dragged. I tried to focus on the Civic, but my mind kept circling back to that letter. Theodore's move, putting legal pressure, trying to force me into settlement talks, probably hoping I'd rather pay them off than deal with an attorney and court filings. They didn't know me very well. At Martin's office, he had the demand letter on his screen, already annotated with notes in red. He looked more amused than concerned. Sylvester, can they actually force me to— No, absolutely not. He leaned back in his chair. Arizona law is crystal clear. You have complete testamentary freedom. Adult children have 0 entitlement to parental support or inheritance. Their attorney knows this. Then why send the letter? Intimidation. Hoping you'll settle to avoid hassle, or building a paper trail for public sympathy. He clicked to a new document. I'm drafting a response. It'll be polite, firm, and legally airtight. No obligation exists. No settlement will be offered. The trust proceeds as planned. I watched him type, occasionally reading phrases aloud for my approval. Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 14.2101, grants absolute testamentary freedom. No legal doctrine of promissory estoppel applies to informal family discussions. Mr. Perez has no legal obligation, moral or otherwise, to provide continued financial support. Perfect, I said. Martin's fingers paused. He looked at me over his reading glasses. Legally, they have nothing. But Sylvester, you should know. Legal battles and public opinion battles are different. They can lose in court and win in the community. I'm not settling. I didn't think you would. Just be prepared for them to fight dirty in other ways. I drove home thinking about his warning, got as far as my driveway before my phone started buzzing. Text messages. Multiple people. I pulled them up at a red light. From Robert. Heads up, Alma posted something on Facebook. Pretty rough. From Linda Chen. Sylvester, just saw something online. Wanted you to know. From Marcus at the shop. Boss, you might want to check social media. I waited until I was home to open Facebook. Hadn't posted anything myself in probably 2 years. Just kept the account to stay connected with distant relatives and old customers. Alma's post was at the top of my feed, shared by someone I vaguely knew. It's hard to write this, but I need to share my truth. My father has cut me off completely, financially, emotionally, because I got married. 34 years of being his daughter, and when I chose love, he chose money. Rent is due. Bills are piling up, and he won't even answer my calls. I know parents don't owe their adult children anything legally, but I thought family meant more than that. I thought I meant more than that. To anyone going through something similar, you're not alone. We deserve better. The post had been up for 3 hours, already had 200 reactions, 50 comments, a dozen shares. I scrolled through the responses. Parents who use money to control their kids are the worst. Stay strong. There's always 2 sides, but she seems genuinely hurt. My dad did the same thing. It's financial abuse. Document everything. Praying for you, sweetie. Your father will regret this someday. Carefully worded. No outright lies I could point to. Just framing, context, the things she left out. Like the secret wedding. Like Theodore draining accounts. Like $72,000 spent on luxury vacations while claiming to run a business. I set my phone face down on the kitchen counter. Didn't comment. Didn't message her. Didn't defend myself in her comment section where every word would be screenshotted and used against me. The next several days proved Martin right about public opinion. Friday, a longtime customer named Patricia came in for an oil change. While I was processing her payment, she said, "Hey, I saw something about you and your daughter online. Hope everything's okay." With a look that said she wasn't sure everything was okay. "Family matters," I said. "Nothing to worry about." Saturday at the grocery store, a woman I vaguely recognized from business networking events gave me a look, not hostile but judging, like she knew something about me now. Monday morning, a colleague sent me a private message. Want to hear your side of what's on Facebook? Coffee sometime? Each interaction was small, manageable, but they accumulated. By Monday evening, I felt like I was walking through Phoenix with a target on my back, invisible to me, but obvious to everyone else. Tuesday, August 12th, I met with Rachel Kim at her downtown office. Modern space, efficient layout, certificates on the wall for notary services and trust administration. Rachel had the trust documents organized in labeled tabs, timeline chart displayed on her computer screen. Mr. Perez, I've reviewed all the documentation from Martin. The trust structure is solid. She moved through each asset with practice speed. 3 auto shops valued collectively at $2.1 million, residential property at $580,000, retirement accounts at $400,000, life insurance at $250,000, total estate $2.68 million. Beneficiary, Arizona Mechanical Skills Foundation to be established. No named heirs. She looked up. I can have final documents ready for signature by next Tuesday, August 19th. That's fast. I understand there's some urgency. Her voice stayed professional, but her eyes showed she'd picked up on the pressure. Once you sign, the trust becomes irrevocable. Your daughter will have no legal claim to any assets, current or future. Good. That's exactly what I want. She walked me through the signature requirements, notarization process, filing procedures. I signed preliminary documents, watched her organize everything into a master file. 7 days until this was permanent. 7 days until Alma's legal options disappeared completely. Walking to my truck in the parking garage, my phone buzzed. Another Facebook notification. Someone had shared Alma's post in Phoenix Small Business Network, a group I'd been part of for years. 300 members. Local shop owners, contractors, service providers, all seeing her story. Her version. I didn't open the app. Instead, I texted Martin. I need a meeting. We need to go on offense. His reply came back in under a minute. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Come prepared. I sat in my truck with the engine running and the AC blasting against August heat. Around me, Phoenix continued its normal rhythm. Cars entering and exiting the garage. People heading to dinner. The city moving forward like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Theodore and Alma had taken this from a private family matter to a public campaign. Legal threats, social media, reputation attacks. They were fighting on multiple fronts, trying to find the pressure point that would make me cave. They'd find out tomorrow that pressure works both ways, and I had something they didn't. Facts. I pulled out of the parking garage and headed home. Tomorrow morning, Martin and I would plan the counterattack. I had David's audit report. I had bank records. I had evidence of every lie and every manipulation. 7 days until the trust was final. 7 days until their options ran out. I just had to hold the line until then. The question was whether they'd let me. Martin's conference room had a whiteboard covered in notes by the time I arrived Wednesday morning. Strategy flowcharts, timeline markers, legal precedents. The leather folder under my arm held David Chen's audit report and a USB drive with every bank statement I'd kept for 15 years. Sylvester, Theodore's rumor campaign has given you something valuable. People are paying attention. Martin gestured to the whiteboard. When you respond, you need to respond with overwhelming evidence. We're not defending. We're presenting facts that make defense unnecessary. What exactly do you need from me? Everything. Every payment, every broken promise, every documented request for money. Email, text, bank records. We build a timeline that shows pattern, not isolated incidents. I spent the next 4 days at my home computer, mining through digital history. Years of correspondence with Alma, preserved in my email archive. Search terms became painfully familiar. Dad, I need. Dad, could you? Dad, you're the only one. Thursday afternoon, I found one from March 2023. I read it aloud to myself in my empty office. Dad, you've always believed in me when no one else did. This business is going to make you so proud. Thank you for the faith and the investment. $80,000, that's what faith cost me. I screenshot each message, organized them by year and category, education, housing, business, personal expenses. Each folder told a story of dependency, of promises made and broken, of gratitude that lasted exactly as long as the money did. Friday afternoon, I made a call I'd been avoiding. Directory assistants connected me to Desert Rose Wedding Planning in Sedona. This is Monica Rodriguez. How can I help you? Ms. Rodriguez, I'm Sylvester Perez, Alma's father. I paid for my daughter's wedding in July, but I'm reconciling my financial records. Could you confirm the invoice total? Brief pause. Then her voice shifted, warmer. Oh, Mr. Perez, the ceremony was beautiful. Let me pull up the file. Yes, total came to $12,000. Venue, catering for 20 guests. Florals, officiant. 12,000. I provided 45,000. Do you know what happened to the remaining 33? Typically with deposits, if the actual costs are less, we refund the difference to the couple. I believe we issued a check to Ms. Perez and Mr. Caldwell for the balance. $33,000. Refunded to them. I thanked Monica professionally, hung up, and opened my credit card statements. Found the Hawaii resort charges 3 days after the wedding. Grand Wailea Resort, Premium Ocean View Suite, spa treatments, private beach cabana rentals, fine dining, total, $33,647. My wedding money spent on their honeymoon while I waited at home believing the ceremony was still a day away. Saturday morning, Martin called. My paralegal found something you should see. Can you come by Monday? In his office Monday afternoon, he spread credit reports across his desk. Legal access, information I had rights to review, due to accounts I'd previously co-signed with Alma. Theodore Caldwell's financial profile, Martin said, highlighting sections. Chase card, $14,200. American Express, $11,800. Discover, $8,900. Capital One, $12,100. $47,000 in credit card debt. Long before he met Alma, Theodore Caldwell has a consistent pattern. Expensive tastes, insufficient income, mounting debt. Then suddenly, 18 months ago, his financial stress eases slightly. Why? I knew the answer. Because he found a new income source, my daughter, and through her, me. Martin pulled out another document. Look at the dates on these charges. Many coincide with periods when Theodore was supposedly investing in business opportunities through your joint account. I took the reports home, spread them across my desk with everything else. Bank statements, email correspondence, audit results, credit reports, wedding invoices. Then I built a timeline. December 2023, Theodore appears in Alma's Facebook photos. January 2024, first unexplained withdrawal from joint account, $4,800 for business consulting. March 2024, I invest $80,000 in Alma's startup. April-July 2024, steady drainage of joint account. Theodore's name on transactions. His credit card balances stabilize slightly. July 2024, secret wedding in Sedona. Honeymoon funded with my wedding money. It's not random, I said to my empty office. It's organized. He'd planned this from the beginning. Identified a target, a woman whose father had money and a history of financial generosity. Isolated her gradually. Orchestrated the wedding exclusion to sever my connection while maximizing the financial extraction. Classic predator behavior, but applied to family relationships instead of stranger scams. I assembled 3 identical evidence binders. Blue folders for bank statements, green for email correspondence, red for business investment records, yellow for wedding expenses. Each binder had an index, page numbers, timeline summary up front. This wasn't emotional venting. This was a prosecutorial brief. 1 binder for me, 1 for Martin, 1 backup in my safe deposit box at the bank. Monday evening, my phone rang. Martin. Sylvester, I got a call from a colleague. Theodore and Alma bought tickets to the Business Leaders Gala on Friday the 23rd. They're going to be there. My hand tightened on the phone. That's my event. I've been a sponsor for 15 years. Exactly. They're trying to corner you in public. Probably force some kind of reconciliation scene where you look like the villain if you refuse. I looked at the evidence binders on my desk. Thought about 3 weeks of rumors, social media attacks, legal threats. Thought about Theodore spreading lies while I stayed silent. What do you think I should do? That depends. Are you ready to go public with everything we've compiled? The question hung in the air. Was I ready? ready to expose my daughter's betrayal in front of 200 business leaders, ready to end any possibility of reconciliation forever. I thought about the wedding I'd funded but never attended, the startup that funded luxury vacations, the joint account systematically drained while Theodore pretended to be investing in his future, the Facebook post painting me as a cruel father, the demand letter threatening legal action for daring to protect my own assets. Yes, I said. Yes, I am. Then we'll need to coordinate with the hotel's AV team. If you're going to tell the truth, let's make sure everyone sees the proof. After we hung up, I sat at my desk looking at the binders. Tomorrow I'd sign the trust, make the disinheritance permanent and irrevocable. Friday I'd face Theodore and Alma in public with my community as witness. They wanted to control the narrative. They were about to learn that stories without facts are just noise, and I had all the facts. Rachel Kim's office was quiet Tuesday morning, just the two of us and her paralegal witnesses at the conference table. The trust documents sat in 3 neat stacks, original and copies, tabs marking signature pages. Mr. Perez, with these signatures, the Sylvester Perez Irrevocable Trust is now fully executed and filed. Rachel pointed to the first signature line with her pen. Your assets are permanently designated for the Arizona Mechanical Skills Foundation upon your death. I used my own fountain pen, the one Maria gave me when I opened my first shop. Page 1, Establishment of Trust. Page 2, Asset Schedule. Page 3, Beneficiary Designation. Page 4, Irrevocability Clause. Each signature was deliberate. Each one severed another thread connecting Alma to my life's work. Rachel applied her notary seal with a heavy press. The embossing made a satisfying thunk. And there's no way to challenge this? In Arizona, with proper execution and given you're of sound mind, it's bulletproof. Your daughter has no legal claim to any inheritance. Good. That's exactly what I wanted. The next 3 days crawled. Wednesday, I had my charcoal suit dry cleaned. Thursday evening, I met Martin at a coffee shop near his office. Last chance, Sylvester. Are you absolutely sure you want to take this public tonight if the opportunity arises? If Theodore tries to make me look like the villain in front of my community, yes, I'm ready. Then remember, facts only, no emotional attacks. Let the evidence speak. Don't call him a con artist, even if that's what he is. I won't, but I will tell the truth. Friday evening, I arrived at the Arizona Biltmore Resort at 6:15. The grand ballroom gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Round tables dressed in white linens. Silent auction displays lined the perimeter. Vacation packages, restaurant gift certificates, sports memorabilia. My company's platinum sponsorship placard stood prominently. Perez Auto Care, $5,000 sponsor. I'd attended this gala for 15 years. Knew most faces, understood the rhythm of the evening. Cocktails, dinner, speeches, silent auction closing, dancing, professional networking dressed as social gathering. Carlos Mendoza found me near the auction tables. Sil, glad you made it. Wasn't sure after, well, some of the stuff circulating online. Here and staying, I said simply. Dinner service began at 7. Salad course, then chicken or salmon. I chose my usual table with business associates, shop owners, suppliers, a couple of insurance brokers, comfortable conversation about industry changes, Phoenix heat, upcoming football season. Around 7:30, during the main course, I saw them enter. Theodore in an expensive suit, Alma in a designer dress. They scanned the ballroom like hunters tracking prey, spotted me, exchanged words, took seats at a back table, last-minute tickets. Nowhere near premium placement. They waited, through salad, through dinner. I felt their attention like heat on my neck, but didn't turn around. Dessert arrived, chocolate mousse. The MC, a local TV personality, finished announcing silent auction closing times and stepped away from the small stage. Theodore moved. He walked to the stage, took the standing microphone, tapped it twice. Feedback, squeal. The room went quiet. I apologize for the interruption, but I need to address something important. I set my fork down carefully, wiped my hands with my napkin, waited. Many of you know Sylvester Perez as a successful businessman, a contributor to this community. I know him as my father-in-law. Theodore's voice carried false humility. His daughter, My wife, Alma, is heartbroken. There's been a misunderstanding, a family disagreement that spiraled, and I'm asking, publicly, humbly, for healing. Sylvester, whatever happened, can we talk? Can we find forgiveness? He extended his hand toward my table. Every eye in the ballroom turned to me. The trap was sprung. Refuse, and I'm the heartless father. Accept, and I validate their narrative. I stood slowly, buttoned my suit jacket, walked between tables toward the stage. The room held its breath. Theodore handed me the microphone. He had no choice. Refusing would expose his manipulation. I looked out at 200 faces, business leaders, friends, colleagues, people who'd seen Alma's Facebook post, heard Theodore's rumors, wondered about the truth. Thank you for the unexpected opportunity to address this. My voice was calm. Theodore mentioned family. Let me tell you about family. About 34 years of being a father. Behind me, the presentation screen flickered to life. Martin had coordinated with the hotel's AV team. My timeline appeared, 1990-2024. Financial support provided. I paid $120,000 for my daughter's college education, $80,000 for a business startup that never operated, $35,000 for a car, $2,200 a month for rent for 3 years, $45,000 for a wedding I was never invited to attend. The screen showed bank transfers, dates, amounts, each one highlighted. If you're doing the math, that's over $400,000. Not loans, gifts, because she was my daughter, and I loved her. Past tense, deliberate. 3 weeks ago, I learned that the wedding I'd funded had happened a week earlier, in secret. My daughter and her husband spent the wedding money on a vacation to Maui instead. Email correspondence appeared on screen, Alma's requests, her promises, her gratitude. I also learned that the business I invested in never actually functioned. The money funded luxury purchases instead. David Chen's audit results, category summaries, luxury hotels, designer clothing, premium dining. The room was absolutely silent. This week I signed an irrevocable trust. My entire estate, 3 automotive businesses, my home, all assets totaling $2.68 million, will fund vocational education for aspiring mechanics. Young people who want to learn a trade, work with their hands, build something real. I paused. Let that sink in. Not a dollar goes to my daughter. Theodore's face had gone white. Alma, at their back table, had covered her face with her hands. Theodore asked about forgiveness. Here's what I believe. Family is built on respect, not just blood, and respect requires honesty. My daughter and her husband have neither respected nor been honest with me. So I've built a new legacy, one that will help people who value hard work and integrity. I set the microphone back on its stand. Thank you for listening. Now let's get back to the reason we're here tonight, supporting this community. The applause started with one person, then spread. Within seconds, the entire ballroom was standing, clapping. Not polite acknowledgement, genuine, sustained applause. I walked back to my table. Didn't look at Theodore frozen on stage. Didn't watch as Alma and Theodore moved toward the exit, as guests turned to observe their departure, as they left the ballroom in complete silence. Martin, 3 tables away, caught my eye, nodded once. My table mate leaned close. Sylvester? I had no idea. After seeing that Facebook post, I wondered. But this is completely different. There's always 2 sides, I said. I just wanted people to know mine. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Probably Alma. Probably Theodore. Maybe both. I didn't reach for it. The reckoning was complete. The carburetor rebuild required patience. Tiny jets, precise adjustments, the satisfaction of restoring function to something broken. I was under the hood of a '67 Mustang, hands deep in its engine bay, when Eddie appeared at my elbow. Boss, your daughter's here. His voice carried careful neutrality. Outside, in the parking lot, with her husband. They're asking for you. My jaw tightened. I set down the socket wrench, wiped my hands on a shop rag. Through the bay door, I could see their car, unwashed. Theodore's expensive suit visible through the windshield, looking rumpled even from this distance. I'm leaving for the day, Eddie. Personal matter. Can you handle things here? Of course. He paused. You all right? I will be. I removed my work apron, grabbed my keys, walked out the back exit, drove home using the route that avoided passing them. This wouldn't happen at my shop, not in front of my employees, not on my professional ground, my territory, my terms. When I arrived home 15 minutes later, their car occupied my driveway. I pulled into the garage, closed the door behind me, entered through the kitchen, moved through my house to the office with the front-facing window. They were already at my door, knocking. Alma's hand on the doorbell. When they heard my garage close, saw my truck, the knocking intensified. I stood at my office window and watched. "Dad, please! I know you're in there. Just 5 minutes. Please, I'm so sorry." Alma's voice carried through the glass, raw and desperate. Theodore paced on my porch. "Sylvester, we made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But we can fix this. Just open the door." I didn't move, didn't respond, just observed from behind my window. They didn't leave. An hour passed. They sat on my porch steps, stood and knocked again. Alma's shoulders shook, crying. Theodore placed a hand on her back, the gesture automatic, not comforting. 2 hours. The afternoon sun beat down on them. Phoenix August heat. They moved to the shade of my porch overhang, but didn't retreat to their car. Theodore checked his phone repeatedly. Alma stared at my front door like she could will it open. 3 hours. A neighbor across the street glanced over while getting mail, quickly looked away. The scene was obvious. Someone being denied entry. Someone refusing to leave. "I'm your daughter, your only child. You can't cut me out forever. Please." Alma's voice cracked on the last word. 4 hours. The sun began its descent, shadows lengthening across the porch. Golden light, evening approaching. They'd been at my door since 2 o'clock. It was nearly 6. I made a decision, not to reconcile, to end this. I walked to the front door, hand steady on the deadbolt, turned it, opened the door. They scrambled to their feet. Both started talking immediately, words tumbling over each other. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have... If you'd just give us a chance to explain." Theodore convinced me that we needed... "Pay you back, every dollar, I promise." I stood in the doorway, didn't step forward, didn't invite them in, just occupied the threshold, the boundary between their world and mine. Wasn't thinking clearly, I was confused. "Set up a payment plan, whatever you want." Theodore's voice carried desperation that stripped away every ounce of his former arrogance. "Sylvester, I take full responsibility. This was my fault. I influenced Alma. I made bad decisions. But I'll make it right. I'll get another job. We'll pay you back. The wedding money, the startup investment, everything." Alma reached toward me. "Dad, I was manipulated. Theodore made everything seem reasonable at the time. The wedding, the money, all of it. I see that now. I was wrong to go along with it. But I'm still your daughter. That has to count for something." I let them speak. Maybe 30 seconds total. Their voices grew more frantic as my silence continued. Alma's mascara streaked her face. Theodore's expensive suit, probably the last one before repossession, hung wrinkled on his frame. Then I raised my hand. They stopped. Instant silence. "You chose your path without me." My voice was quiet, absolute. "Now live with it. Leave my property." "Dad, no! You can't! I'm sorry, please!" Alma reached for my arm. I stepped back. Her hand closed on empty air. Theodore's voice came out strangled. "Sylvester, please. We have nowhere else to... We're about to lose everything." The irony seemed lost on him. They'd already lost the most valuable thing. I said nothing more. Just looked at them. Really looked at them for what I knew would be the last time. Then I closed the door, not slammed it. Just closed it with normal pressure, maintaining eye contact until the wood blocked my view. The deadbolt slid home. Click. I stood in my entryway, hand still on the doorknob, and listened. Muffled voices outside. Alma sobbing. Theodore's low, defeated murmur. Footsteps descending porch stairs. I walked to my office window. Watched them return to their car. Alma collapsed into the passenger seat. Didn't close the door right away. Just sat there bent forward. Theodore walked around to the driver's side slowly, got in. They sat in the stationary car for several minutes, just sitting. Finally, the engine started. They backed out of my driveway, drove away down the street. I watched until their taillights disappeared around the corner. My phone rang. Martin's name on the screen. I answered. It's done. They came to your house? His voice carried concern but not surprise. They left. They won't be back. Are you okay? I stood in my office, looking at the empty driveway, the evening light painting my neighborhood in warm tones. For the first time in a month, since that dinner I'd prepared for 3, I felt something settle in my chest. I am. For the first time in a month, I actually am. After we hung up, I stood at the window a moment longer, not celebrating, not mourning, just acknowledging. It was finished, the reckoning complete, the boundary permanent, the consequences delivered. I turned away from the window and walked to my kitchen to make dinner. Sunday morning arrived quiet. I woke naturally. No alarm, no jolt of stress. Just Sunday. Last day of August. Made coffee in my kitchen, stood at the window watching morning light spread across the desert landscape beyond my backyard. The tension that had lived in my shoulders for weeks was gone. Not replaced by satisfaction or triumph, just absence of weight. My phone sat on the counter. Text from Martin confirming our 10 o'clock meeting. Report from Eddie about yesterday's shop operations. Nothing from Alma or Theodore. I showered, dressed in jeans and a polo shirt, Sunday casual. Drove to Martin's office on 3rd Street. He'd come in on a weekend just for this meeting. That said something about the man. Sylvester, good news, though not surprising. Whitmore and Associates sent withdrawal letter Friday. He slid a document across his desk. Their demand for restored financial support and inheritance guarantees is officially dropped. I scanned the legal language. Essentially, we have no case. We're done trying. Leave us alone. They finally realized they had no case. They never had a case. Martin smiled slightly. But sometimes people need to exhaust all options before accepting reality. He pulled out another set of papers. The Arizona Mechanical Skills Foundation is officially incorporated. Board of Directors includes 2 representatives from the local technical college, 1 from the State Automotive Trade Association, and an independent financial advisor. Upon your death, the foundation receives all trust assets and begins operations. When do scholarships start? First awards could be distributed as early as 6 months after the trust transfers. Students learning automotive technology, tool and equipment grants, apprenticeship stipends. I thought about young people learning a trade, working with their hands, building something real. That's good. That's real. Thank you for handling all of this, Martin. The trust, the foundation, everything. It's been my pleasure. He met my eyes. And Sylvester, you did the right thing. Not the easy thing, but the right thing. I shook his hand, took my copies of the documents, drove home, made a detour, drove past my flagship shop on Van Buren Street, the original location I'd opened in 1995. Parked across the street, engine idling, air conditioning fighting August heat. The building looked solid, professional. Perez Auto Care in bold letters across the front. 3 decades of work. 60 employees across 3 locations. Built from nothing. This would outlive me. Fund education for the next generation. That mattered more than blood inheritance. I pulled away after 5 minutes. Continued home. Spent the afternoon on my back patio. The shade cover and fan made the heat bearable. Desert landscape stretched beyond my property line. Saguaro cacti, rocky hills, endless sky. I sat in a comfortable chair with a book I'd been meaning to read, but mostly just looked at the view. My neighbor Tom called over the fence. Beautiful day, isn't it? It is. Quiet. How's the auto business? Solid. I set down my book. Actually, my grandson Jerry, he's finishing high school next year, thinking about technical training. You still take apprentices? Always. Have him call me when he's ready. Will do. Enjoy your evening. Normal conversation. Ordinary life. No crisis, no battle, no strategy. Just a Sunday afternoon. Around 6, I went inside to make dinner. Grilled chicken, salad. Simple. My phone rang while I was turning the chicken in the pan. Caller ID. Alma. I looked at it. Let it ring. The chicken needed attention. The phone kept ringing. She'd leave a voicemail. Or she wouldn't. Either way, I wasn't answering. After it went to voicemail, I set down my spatula. Picked up the phone. Stared at her name on the screen. Her photo I'd never bothered to change. Held the power button. Slide to power off appeared. I slid it. The screen went dark. Not just silenced. Not just ignored. Off. I set the phone back on the counter and finished making dinner. Ate on the patio as the sun began its descent. Phoenix sunsets were spectacular, oranges bleeding into purples, deep pinks painting the clouds. The desert sky put on its evening show, indifferent to human drama below. My phone sat on the patio table beside my iced tea. Dark, silent. I didn't miss it. 30 years I'd been building my business. 34 years I'd been Elma's father. One of those things would continue mattering. The other had run its course. I thought about Martin's question. What's next? Maybe I'd travel. Never been to the Grand Canyon despite living in Arizona my whole life. Maybe I'd expand the business. There was interest in a fourth location in Tempe. Maybe I'd even date again someday. The future was open in a way it hadn't been for decades. Not because something good had happened, because something necessary had finished. The sky deepened from orange to purple to indigo. Stars began appearing in the darkening dome above me. I sat with my empty plate and my cold tea and watched night claim the desert. No anger, no regret, no satisfaction, just peace. I'd raised my daughter the best I could, given her everything I thought she needed. She'd chosen differently, made her decisions without me, then expected me to fund the consequences. That wasn't on me. I'd protected what I'd built, established boundaries, created a legacy that would help people who valued hard work and integrity. Young people learning trades, building skills, earning their own way. That was worth more than blood. The phone stayed dark on the table. I made no move to turn it back on. Didn't need to. Everything that needed saying had been said. Everything that needed doing had been done. A breeze moved across the patio, carrying the scent of creosote and dust, the desert's perfume. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. Another answered, the ancient rhythm of the Sonoran desert, indifferent to the small human dramas played out beneath its sky. I gathered my plate and glass, stood, and carried them inside, locked the patio door, rinsed the dishes in the sink. Normal Sunday evening routine. Tomorrow, I'd go back to work, fix cars, manage employees, run my business. The same life I'd been living for 3 decades, minus the weight of obligation to someone who'd never valued it. I left the phone on the counter, dark and silent, walked to my bedroom, got ready for sleep. When I turned off the lights, the house settled into comfortable darkness. No tension waiting in the corners. No dread about tomorrow's phone calls. No wondering what fresh manipulation might arrive. Just a house. Just a man. Just another night. And in the morning, the rest of my life would continue. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.